Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about experiment number 9, which is smartphone microscope. We're going to turn your phone into a microscope. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to follow the instruction. So this experiment is a little bit more involved in terms of setup. So we're going to go a little bit slower. So what we're going to do is we're going to first pop out the lens of the laser, and then make sure when you take out the lens of the laser, unscrew it. But carefully, there is anti-backlash spring, so we want to put that aside. You don't want to be losing that because we need it for the future. So the spring will go boing and go everywhere if you're not careful. All right, so once we have the lens, what we're going to do is we then going to set up some sort of optical stage for the backlight. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the box itself, and we're going to take the photometer, and we're going to turn on the white LED. So right here, that's W stands for white. I'm going to turn that on. So that's going to be really bright. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on the desktop, and then we're going to put the lid over it. If your sample is transparent enough, you should be able to just put on the flat side of the lid. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look, see how the business card looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the lens on the front. And there's one thing we would like to do is to modify the lens a little. And then here is the modification we want to do to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew the lens from the annular ring, from the knurling ring. It may take a little bit of effort. And so what you will see is there's a notch right there on the front side of the lens. Usually the notch is buried inside the thread. And what we're going to do is once we unscrew it, we're going to turn this 180 degrees such that the notch is facing outward. And then we're going to thread lens ring back. So make sure you don't cross thread this thing. I thread backwards, counterclockwise first, until you hear a little click. That's when you know the thread has been engaged correctly, and then you thread clockwise. So that way you avoid cross threading, and then just finger tight it. Don't go crazy. So now what the modification we did is we made a notch on the other side of the knurling. Fix the lens distance to the face of the knurling ring to be the right distance. So now what you could do is you could then place this modified lens on the specimen. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unmount my cell phone, which I'm recording the video with right now, and I'm gonna put it through the lens, how this thing looks like. So bear with me. Okay, so now I have my camera seeing down the lens, so you can see the pixels that's been printed, and then you can move the lens around to other places. And now for things that are not transparent, here's a trick that you might be able to use to see it. So say for example I want to measure the graduation on my steel ruler. What you could do is you could put the ruler on the box, but this time don't put the ruler directly above the light, but rather at some fairly steep angle. So say for example like that. Right, you can see the light is somewhere on my fingertip, but right underneath my fingertip, but I'm putting the pretty far off of that. And then what I could do is I could put my microscope right on the ruler itself. And then now when I go in, then you could take the image of the ruler and then determine the resolution of your microscope, right? Because you know the graduation, at least on the fine side, This is 0.5 millimeter per graduation, right? These fine lines. So, and the reason this works is the straight light is going to shine through some of the shiny edge of the knurling, of the inner diameter of the knurling ring, and bounce off around, and that give you sunlight to observe something that's not transparent. So again, the light is not underneath the lens, right? And yet I have just enough light to make an observation on something very opaque. So here's another example of things we could observe. So this will be the printing pattern on the diffraction card. So again, we're going to put the lens about halfway. So at the end of the smartphone microscope experiment, what you want to do is you want to reassemble the laser back. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo everything we did. So we're going to unthread the lens from the knurling ring, and then we're going to put the notch side back into the ring. And again, I'm going to rotate the ring backwards, i.e. counterclockwise first, until I hear a click. There you go. Then I'm going to thread forward. That way I avoid cross-threading the plastic thread. And again, just finger tight it, don't overdo it. So finger tight and a little bit more, and that's all you need. And then we're going to do, we're just going to take the laser and then put the spring back, and then thread the focusing ring back onto the laser body. And that will be the end of the smartphone experiment. So make sure you reassemble the laser back the way it was, so that way you could use it in the future experiment.